Hi, I'm Bonnie and I'm here with today's 15-minute writing prompt to get your pencils writing and your fingers typing. Let's get our minds moving in a creative direction. Today's 15-minute writing prompt is character writing. Doing something important, animal interprets and sabotages it. Keywords: whisker, trouble, glass, flight, candle, and coffee. So in 15 minutes from the writing prompt, character writing, doing something important, animal interprets and sabotages it, keywords: whisker, trouble, glass, flight, candle, and coffee, I took this. So let me get going. This is what I wrote. Clickety-clack, typed as quickly as she could. The questionnaire for her interview was due in an hour. Margaret quickly typed her answers. How could they ask 50 questions? Why so many? Margaret huffed as she typed. She wasn't really mad about the questionnaire. She was mad she had forgotten it even had to be done. If it wasn't for Brad's email, she wouldn't have been aware of it. Margaret tried to slow down. She knew panicking only made her make mistakes, but she knew her pace couldn't be casual on this one. This was her release interview. Margaret grabbed her water and placed the cap on her desk. Taking a big swig, Fancy, her cat, jumped up. Margaret set Fancy on the floor. Not now, Fancy. I have to get this done. Normally, Fancy would sit on her lap as she typed, but today that was never going to happen. Margaret's anxiety was mid-level. Rushed but upon her talking herself down from the panic. Settling in, Margaret was almost there. Question 42. Only a few more to go. Fancy jumped back up on the desk, and with one swipe of the tail, the water bottle tipped and submerged the top of her keyboard and pulled around the machine. Fancy walked across the screen and everything seemed to disappear. Fancy, Margaret screamed. How could you? Fancy just looked up at Margaret and let out a loud meow. Margaret stood to her feet and stared at her desk in disbelief. Seriously? Seriously, this had to happen now of all times? Margaret grabbed a towel and dried the machine the best she could. The screen was blurred. Margaret could see that the water had already got inside. Closing the laptop in frustration, Margaret tried to open her email from her phone. The document was there, but the print was so small she could barely read the document. Margaret emailed Brad and told him about the situation, and then waited for the reply. Margaret rubbed her palms together and cracked her knuckles. You could always tell she was stressed when she did this. Sometimes she would rub her palms till the skin began to peel off and leave a rosy sting. Margaret waited and waited. Then she saw her reply. I guess we'll have to reschedule. I don't have anything available for 3 months. Sorry we couldn't make this happen. Brad had strict rules on how things were to go. Some say a perfectionist. Margaret sank in her chair just looking at Fancy. She looked so innocent, but Margaret knew better. Fancy's whiskers twitched. Margaret wondered if she had planned this, if she caused the trouble intentionally. Margaret got up and Fancy took flight up the stairs. Margaret walked to the kitchen. Maybe I'll have coffee instead. Margaret put the tea back and pulled out a can of coffee. Opening the pot, she put the grounds in the water and turned it on. The smell perked her up instantly. Waiting by the pot, she watched it perk. The pot about halfway full, Margaret decided she wouldn't wait any longer. Pouring it into her cup, she thought maybe the day would get better somehow. Taking a small sip of the piping hot brew, Margaret gagged. Coffee grounds covered her lips. I can't believe I forgot the filter. This day is over. Margaret stripped her clothes and crawled back into bed. And that's what I took in 15 minutes from the writing prompt. Character writing, doing something important. Animal interrupts and sabotages it. Keywords were whisker, trouble, glass, flight, candle, and coffee. Be sure to check back tomorrow for the newest 15-minute writing prompt. And have a great day. Keep writing, my friends.